welcome to the Jay Scott Outdoors podcast. Today we have Chris Rowe of Roe Hunting Resources. Chris, how you doing?
Doing well. We are finally getting some rain out here, so I am a happy camper.
Well, that's good. Hopefully it's not too late for you.
No, it's perfect. I mean, last year the rain came and it was a little late. It was about 2 weeks too late. Now we are about golden, and I just took a picture. We're sitting at about an inch and a half in the rain gauge, and it's been coming down nice and soft for 2 days, and it's supposed to continue all night. Oh man, I'm happy. I couldn't have asked for anything better, and no, it's perfect. Perfect timing.
Well, that's fantastic. I was all rain geared up to have the big bet with you that we had on the last podcast, and if if I would have done my part, I probably would have had a bird that
Well,
would have had a hard time beating, but I
well,
basically just
hold on, go back because we were a little remiss because we ended that podcast before we included it, didn't we? Or did you include it at the end?
no,
We didn't record it. Well, I don't think we recorded it. So
well
tell
you
them what I said.
well you probably didn't listen to the episode. I actually took that conversation that we had
Oh, you did. Okay.
afterwards
All right.
and
All
I
right.
put
Good.
it at the beginning,
Okay.
and
All
so people all day have been going, so what happened with you and Chris Rowe over the weekend? Who got the biggest bird? I'm like, well, all he has to do is go kill a turkey and he
Oh.
wins the bet. And they're like, no. And I'm like, yep.
Well, and
So,
we just talked about my crisis of conscience right now because a lot of people, well, some of the listeners know that I run turkey hunts out here in Kansas, and so uh, I've really limited the number of hunters that are going to come out here this year for a variety of reasons. But I've got I've got a couple, and it doesn't matter. Long story short, I went and scouted one of the properties, and out of all my years of hunting, whether it's hunting for myself or guiding, this is legit. I saw we have the largest turkey I have ever laid eyes on. This thing is a tank. And so I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, I've got two kids and two kids and a dad, and then a single hunter before I can even think about hunting for myself. I'm like, do I take the clients out there? Are we trying to shoot him in the face with a shotgun and get a kid to it, or do I selfishly hold on to this one and just grind you into the dust on this?
oh man, I wish so. I roll out to Texas with my buddy Travis, and Travis came and hunted bighorn sheep in Unit 15D this last season. He drew a tag and wanted to bow hunt. He's a big bow hunter, and he's going to Arctic Red River in the Northwest Territories this summer. He's hunting Dall sheep and moose and caribou with his bow. And anyway, he invites me to come out to his place in Texas, and he leaves one little caveat. He says, he says, I want you to come out and turkey hunt with me in Texas. I don't really know what I'm doing. I want you to tell me what decoys to get, but you have to bring your bow. I'm like, that's like taking a knife to a gunfight. He's like, nope, nope, you got to bring your bow. You can't bring a
Good for him.
shotgun. You got to bring your bow. And
Good for him. Good for him.
I'm like, if anybody knows me, they're like, I'm so against archery and turkeys and just and before that, I've tried for one turkey with my bow, and I was successful. I killed a Merriam's turkey with my bow, one shot, one kill. Like, there's nothing to this, but I've guided obviously Gould's turkeys and been around a lot of hunts and seen some really good shots with a bow and watched those turkeys just, boom, you shoot them right through the, right, and just feathers everywhere, and the turkeys run off and you never recover them. So anyway, the long and the short of it is I probably should have went with long arrows. I probably should have went with the Magnus Bullhead or the guillotine, because I always tell archery hunters that come and hunt with me that a wattle neck and head shot is best on a turkey with a bow, because if you clip any part of that, you've got a dead bird. And I've seen so many birds get hit through the middle, if you will, and fly off and never recover, because once, they fly off and take flight, go over a ridge top or, whatever, they're very hard to find.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
they don't bleed a lot when you hit them. When you hit them good, it's a done deal. But, when you don't hit them good, like most things, when you don't hit them good, there's hardly any blood and you almost never find them. And so anyway, I was shooting, decided to shoot the Gravedigger expandables, which I don't think that was my problem at all. I think my problem was shot placement. And but backing up, so Travis invites me out, and so we did the turkey seminar. Darn, I did the turkey seminar on March 21st, which was a Tuesday, and I flew out on a Wednesday to go to Texas. And I was fortunate. I was going to hunt with Travis, and then I was going to hunt with my friend Reagan, whose boss owns a property there in Texas as well. So, it was going to be a great time, which it was. Um, so I fly out there, meet Travis, and Travis's family. It's a pretty cool story. Travis's family actually owns uh, Natural Bridge Caverns just outside of San Antonio, and it's the largest cave in Texas.
really.
And back in, I think, 1955, four students from St. Mary's College knocked on his grandmother's door at a ranch house, and she was actually, her husband had passed away, and so she was, his grandmother was a single lady at this time, and uh, and I may be getting some of the story, but anyway, she says, sure, you can explore the cave. They knew they had somewhat of a cave there. Well, these four college students go and explore this kind of smaller room of a cave, and they find a whole nother like pathway, and they kind of dig it out. And anyway, they find this unbelievable underground, cave or cavern, and it turns out it's the largest underground cave in Texas, and it's a big tourist attraction. It's right outside of San Antonio. And so I got to tour the cave. Travis took me there, and he's been working there since he was a little boy as a, working on the grounds, working as a tour guide, and just an unbelievable cave. It's 2 miles long. There's several caves, but one of them is 2 miles long, and it goes a couple hundred feet underground, and just a really, really neat setup. So we go out that first night, and he's like, I got birds on my property, kind of all over, and we go out and have a great encounter with a couple of young kind of Jake birds, but with like 4 or 5 inch beards, but strutting Jakes, which I haven't seen many strutting Jakes. Merriam's typically, the Jakes aren't near as aggressive as I saw some of these Rios, but and then we roosted a pile of birds that night, and um, we made the plan that we were going to get in there really early the next morning, take he had a Zenic blind. We took the Zenic blind in there, got up, set up really early, and there's kind of this big valley, green grass valley, and then, kind of a real steep, thick, kind of north facing ridge, and the birds were all roosted there. Well, when I looked at the setup, I thought it was perfect to set up on the side of the hill that the turkeys were roosted on, because it's basically they could pitch right out into the field. And I was a little bit worried about them flying way out into the center. But as it turned out, as it started getting light, they were gobbling all around us. And I've been putting some of the video on my Instagram. Anyway, they fly out. Four toms, one tom hits right out in the field, and then like four toms land, and I start calling, and the birds basically come into the Dave Smith decoys, and um, for probably 45 minutes, we got just an incredible show at probably 8.5 or 9 yards away from the blind. And, all kinds of stuff, even X-rated stuff going on with those birds jumping on, mounting the decoys and just crazy stuff. But anyway, after the whole show, I decided, he's like, "You gonna shoot one?" I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, I almost hated to because it was such an unbelievable morning, and I draw back and just, I mean, choked. I sent you the video, Chris. My, I don't know what it was, but I aimed too low, too low. I know it's hit them high, watch them die, hit them low, watch them go. And I shoot, and the bird's kind of, like you said, jibbing and jiving, kind of, moving around, and there's no excuse. I mean, at that distance, I shot and I shot low, and all you see is feathers, just poof, like a dove gets shot, with a 12 gauge, and feathers everywhere, and he runs out about 10 yards and starts gobbling, and then we start to laughing, and the bird was in full strut, and I mean, I know where to shoot the bird. Shoot them, above the beard, below the wattle, when they're head on strutting is kind of what I think. But it goes back to where I should have been shooting a Magnus Bullhead or a guillotine, in my opinion. That's to me the most effective way to kill a turkey, because so many body shots I see birds fly off, and I know there's a great place where you can hit them and they'll die every time. But I think even being in that situation, Chris, where the bird's puffed up, and yeah, I'm jazzed up. I love turkeys. Like, I love those birds. And we're filming them at 8.5 yards, getting incredible video. And here I'd go blow one right through the center of it, all feathers. Anyway, he goes out there with his buddies, 4 other gobblers, and goes back to gobbling and strutting. And it was just like salt in the wound. So I thought I would call and talk to you about it, as far as, then I switched to headshots and on another setup later in the morning, and I took 3 headshots with 0 connections, and I was just disgusted with myself.
Well, all right.
I don't even know where you start with that.
Well, I'm going to start with this, and it's going to segue back to your story about the caves. You do realize how much crap you're going to catch for saying underground cave, right?
Yeah, I guess that's kind of an oxymoron, isn't it? You could have a cave in the side of a cliff, though.
Anyway.
Wait a minute. Let's back up. You could have a cave up on the side of a cliff, could you not?
Yeah, but it's still on the ground. I don't know why that struck me so funny. I couldn't concentrate for like the last half of the story.
So you missed my whole story because you were ready to razz me?
No, I didn't. No,
why didn't you call timeout and just give me my ration of bull right then? Underground cave. Yeah, I guess that is kind of a...
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. I love it. No, dude, seriously, well, first and foremost, I will say this about your turkey issue. The fact that he went out there and strutted, that's awesome to me, because that tells me that bird is just fine, and he'll live, and he'll go on to do great things in the future, unless somebody else smacked him in the face with a load of 6s later this season. But if he goes out there and acts like nothing happened, my guess is you caught almost nothing but feathers.
Yeah, there was nothing on my arrow.
Yeah,
no blood.
Awesome.
No, I think
awesome.
At the angle I sent you that clip, and here I am in the blind sitting on a stool, and they're literally 8.5 yards away. I think at that downward angle, hitting it. So if you guys picture the bird facing me full strut, and I hit just left of the beard and just a smidge low, but then I'm thinking at a downhill angle, it basically just probably slid right under that breast and literally just went right underneath them, which I know on a turkey with a bow, you're better off hitting them high. Hit them high, watch them die. Yeah. Hit them low, watch them go.
Yeah. And dude, if anybody's going to bow hunt turkeys, All right. Okay. First and foremost, let me just say this. I know for people listening, some of this is going to be difficult some people have a very good ability to visualize things in their mind, and I hope this will make sense. Other people want to see it on video, and for those people, sorry, talking about it and not showing a video is going to suck. But, yeah, I mean,
They can
anybody
go
that's
on my Instagram. I'm gonna put the video up of the shot and everything, so you can go on my
yeah.
Instagram to see the complete fail that I had. But
And then
um,
if people want to like see the other side of that equation, like success, they can go on my no, there is a
but
in the
that didn't come out exactly right. You want to see the epic fail, go on Jay's page. When you want to see the complete success, go on my page. No, but I get it. You have a great video on
no, I mean
row
what we're
hunting resources. You do. I will give
yeah
you that. That's
yeah
why I'm calling you.
what we're talking about here in the turkey module. I have a in the bows and the straight shot videos. Straight shot is just a real quick videos that I just give you the nuts and bolts on topics and my thoughts. Well, I did one about turkey anatomy and then body shots. Because again, and Jay, you mentioned it. You got the head. There's people that bow hunt turkeys and they want to use either expandables or traditional just fixed blade broadheads, and they want to take body shots, or people that want to take a headshot and I think there's another one out there and I don't know, but essentially you either got the Gobbler guillotine or Magnus Bullhead. I am a huge I am not associated with Magnus in any way, shape, or form. I don't owe them a dime. They don't owe me a dime. I love their broadheads. And if you go to my YouTube channel, Kurt Geist and I did the most in-depth video on those broadheads, tuning them, getting them ready to go. That you just go to our YouTube or go to my YouTube channel on Roe Hunting Resources. You can look that video up, and it's about an hour long, and we go through setting those up. There is something viscerally satisfying about shooting a turkey in the face. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a shotgun or a Magnus Bullhead. There's just something satisfying about that. But like you said, Jay, 90% of the time, if you take a headshot, even with a head chopper style broadhead, you either kill them or you miss them clean. Now, there are some, I think Magnus and other people are like, oh no, they're either dead or alive. Well, the only I have seen shots go low, catch him in the wing butt, and you break that wing. Well, you didn't kill the bird. The bird runs off with a broken wing, dragon. Sorry, he's got a broken wing. He's a dead bird. You didn't kill him. The bobcat, coyote, whatever's going to get him later because he can't get up to roost. So, but 95+% of the time, probably, you either shoot him and hit him or you shoot him and miss him. And so I really, really do love the head chopper style broadheads. However, for those people that are thinking about doing that, again, watch that video, because you do have to consider, you can't use your normal elk and deer arrows. Most of the time, they're not long enough to clear your hand and your sights and the front of your bow, because again, they've got a huge cutting diameter. So go to Roe Hunting Resources YouTube channel, look up the video that Kurt and I did on Magnus Bullheads, and if you follow that, and I'm dead serious, if you follow that video and do what we tell you to do, you can shoot a turkey in the head as far as you can shoot. We literally, Kurt and I and John McDonald sat in a blind one year, and again, Jay, you're not the only one. I struggled in the beginning. Even Kurt won the state championship. I mean, he was a state champion archery shooter, competition shooter for, I don't know how many, multiple times. And he missed repeatedly. The three adults are sitting in this blind. It's John and Kurt's turn to shoot. We juggle back and forth. They both miss this bird while he's 8 steps in front of the blind. Finally, this bird takes off, and he gets out there. Kurt's like, get out of the way. nocks an arrow, and Kurt smacks this thing in the head at 50 yards with a Magnus Bullhead. Okay, so my point being, if you tune those things right, they will fly. Out of any setup, anybody can shoot them, but you've got to set them up right. But it does.
How do you set them up right?
But that's okay. You've got to get the spine right, which means you're going to have to generally go with a heavier spined arrow. You're going to have to go now. Magnus will say now, and I am not critical of Magnus, because you can go to Magnus Bullhead's webpage and you can buy their broadheads, and they sell. I used to be a 3-pack of ready to go arrows. If you're starting there, dude, that's a great way to go. I encourage you to do it. But you don't necessarily need to use a full length arrow, because again, depending on your draw length, etc. But you are going to need an arrow that is longer than typically what you shoot for deer and elk, because it's going to have to clear your hand, the front of the riser, and depending on how the blade orientation is, your sights. Okay, so it's got to be longer. Because it's longer, especially with the new bows that we have out there today that have a high, there's a lot of energy being transferred from the bow to the arrow. So there's an aggressive power stroke. If you're going to have that long of an arrow and an aggressive power stroke, you're going to need a stiffer arrow. The other thing, too, is a lot of times you're better off having more veins or feathers in the back. Feathers do great because they don't weigh a lot, but you can also go 4-fletch, and you can get a lot of drag or steerage off the back end of it. So, again, you're going to need a different arrow setup. And I always encourage people, if you're going to be shooting turkeys with a bow, do not hesitate to drop the poundage of your bow 10 pounds if you need to. You're not needing to get the arrow there like you're not hunting a whitetail. Okay, or you're not hunting pronghorn out in the flats to where you need an arrow to get there right now. You can shoot lower poundage and still do very, very well. All right, so all those things go into the fact that you're dealing with a different broadhead that requires a different arrow setup, so you've got to take time setting that up and tuning that arrow properly. Start with your paper tuning, make sure that arrow paper tunes well, then go to maybe a large fixed blade broadhead, a large profile fixed blade broadhead, not these little, not a slick trick or something, like the small heads. No, you want a large profile fixed blade broadhead, something that's going to catch a lot of wind, because that's going to show you any foible that you have in your release, in your torque of your bow or spine of your arrow. It's going to exacerbate it, and it's not going to tune. Tune that, and then once you get a fixed blade broadhead to shoot just like your field tips, you can literally throw that Magnus Bullhead on, and you can rock and roll.
What do you shoot the Magnus Bullhead in? Do you practice a shot with the Magnus Bullhead, and what do you shoot into?
Pillows. Go to Walmart, buy the cheapest pillow. I think their pillows are like $1.50. You can go to the section where you can buy pillows, and they're cheap. Cheap. Buy a handful of pillows, hang them. Seriously, we go through this whole thing on the video. Hang them, all right, so they just swing freely. Take a magic marker, draw a 1-inch circle or whatever you need, dot on that pillow, and shoot into a pillow. And literally, you can shoot repetitive times into that pillow with that Magnus Bullhead, and you're just fine. I have not seen the same thing happen with a gobbler guillotine. I know people shoot gobbler guillotine and do well with it, but there are some limitations. My experience, the reason why I'm a fan of Magnus Bullheads is because they're so darn durable, and they have a lifetime warranty. So for instance, say you miss the pillow, say you catch something hard, or you shoot a turkey, okay? The impact of that thing, it's gonna kill that turkey. And yes, you can get replacement broadheads or blades for those heads, but you may torque the ferrule of the head of that Magnus Bullhead. Well, Magnus Bullheads are guaranteed for life. Literally, you can shoot a turkey tweak the ferrule, put it in a box, send it back to Magnus. Magnus will send you a brand new broadhead. I'm not trying to game the system here, but folks, literally, you can buy a 3-pack of Magnus Bullheads, go out, kill turkeys, take your tweaked ones after season, send them to Magnus. They send you new ones. You'll have a brand new set of Magnus Bullheads ready to go for next season. You buy them once and you've got them for life. I'm serious. Magnus is awesome. All right. And they fly the best.
What about keeping them in a quiver, or do you just carry them? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, Magnus they already solved that. They've got their little hood. Now, you've got the one thing I don't like. I wish they sold them together. They got to make money. They sell adapters. Basically, it is you can put the entire 3-blade Magnus into this little hood, and that little hood will slip into your existing quiver perfectly. Now, with that said, I do not recommend shooting your bow with arrows in the quiver with your arrows in those hoods. The hoods are plastic. They're a thin plastic. They work very, very well for transport, but if you shoot your bow with those arrows in the plastic hood, it's loud. So when you get in your blind, or if you're getting
your quiver off,
bingo, you nailed it. Pop your quiver off and go for it. Absolutely go for it.
Okay, a couple questions for you. I know I've probably interrupted and you've got
That's right.
other things, but what distance would you say, and I know you said Kurt shot one at 50 yards, but is it okay to assume that out to 20 yards that those things can shoot pretty darn good?
If you do due diligence prior to season, I show you in the video, those suckers will fly true 10, 20, 30, 40. It doesn't matter. They fly true, period. Now, if you don't tune your arrows, or they're not spined properly, or you are torquing your bow hard, or you punch the trigger on your release or whatever, and you put a lot of kick in the arrow, oh yeah, those suckers are going to plane on you. And the farther you go, the worse they get. So if you are one of those people that for some reason, just cannot get them to tune well at 20, 30, 40 yards, still, even today, most of the time, 10 yards, those suckers are on. Doesn't matter how bad you punch the trigger or not. And I'm dead serious. I don't care if it's me. I don't care if I'm hunting with a bow with fixed blades, expandables, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the setup. I put my decoys, if I'm sitting in a blind, I put my decoys where I want to take the shot, 10 steps. My strutter is 10 steps from the blind, and then my Jake decoy is 15 steps. I've got the whole whipping, what I call the whipping boy setup. The farthest shot at either my strutter or my Jake is 15 yards. 90% of the time, you can get a Magnus Bullhead to fly well at up to 20 yards. That's not hard to do. So people, if you're going to hunt out of a blind, you can set your decoys at 10 yards, get those birds in there point blank, and shoot them in the face.
That's what I needed. If you were to hit and your arrow flies low, and you, let's say at 10 yards, and you hit those suckers, let's say right about at the beard, and let's say you're pulling them, 70 pounds, is it going to literally just knock them off their feet and kill them? Or knock the air out of them? Or what does it do? Because I'm sure you've seen it.
And I will, please, John McDonald, forgive me, but I'm going to use you as an example. There was a year, two. Let's just say a year. I'm not going to say two because I don't remember if it was 2 or 1. John had a year where he just, for some, and none of us can figure it out. I don't know what, he would just hit low every single time. He would hit him in the body every single time. He would hit him in the breast. He'd hit him in the beard. Every single time.
So in other words, he's probably drawing and working his way up, and he's releasing early.
Or he's coming to full draw, and then because he had a bow at the time, Bowtech, that it had a real big valley, and what we were thinking is maybe he wasn't anchoring all the way and pulling in through it. He was kind of creeping, and so the draw cycle wasn't. I don't know, but he hit him in the body every single time, and most of the time, it's gonna stumble him. There's gonna be feathers everywhere, and then they're gonna get up and put, and then they're just gonna, maybe they go into strut. Maybe they ain't coming back. Most of them ain't coming back. I mean, all they know is that decoy, the strutter that they just came into, just kicked the ever-loving snot out of them, and they never even saw it coming. So at that point, they're like, dude, maybe I should give him some space. And so they'll just out there, and some of them will strut, but most of them will leave. But you're just going to get a pile of feathers, because if the bird, that's if the bird is facing you. Because the other thing that people need to consider is if you look at the anatomy of a turkey, when they're strutted out or even partially strutted out, between the outer feathers and the beard. So, okay, again, let's say, again, you're aiming from the wattles to the head. But if you shoot low and you hit in that chest, the beard, anywhere around the beard, not only do they have the air pocket of the crop, that pocket of the crop where they store food, which is a big air pocket, but they also have that breast sponge, which is a very fatty, spongy mass on the front of their breast. And then they have that huge chunk of muscle, which is their breast muscle. So they've got a whole bunch, and then all the thick feathers. They've got a pile of cushioning before you even get close to the vitals. Now, I'm saying this assuming people are shooting the full, say, 125 grain Magnus Bullhead that has the full, I think it's a 3+ inch, 4-inch, 3 or 3.5 inch cutting diameter. They do make a 1.5 inch or a 100 grain. I think it's a 2-inch cutting diameter or something. I don't know. It's a much smaller one. And they claim that you can do body shots. I have zero information on those. I've never used them, never tried it. I've only gone with the larger Magnus Bullheads that are designed to smack him in the head. So if you're using those and you hit him in the body, in the front of the chest, if he's facing you, you're just going to take a whole bunch of feathers off. Now, broadside, I have personally taken feathers off their back. I have personally taken feathers off of the front of their chest. But I have personally witnessed people, if they hit low and to the angle, to the side, and they catch that wing butt just by sheer kinetic energy and just momentum of that arrow, I've seen it break their wing, and you can. It's only happened once, but it broke his wing, and he stumbled off, and he took off running, and there he goes. So,
okay, and then the race is on. When it hits any part of their neck, their wattle, or their head, any part of that blade, does it just they're just dead on their feet?
Not necessarily. I have, if people watch my Through the Seat, and I think I've got this one up. Maybe I don't, but if I don't, I'll try to get it up soon. If you catch any part of bone, their neck bone or their skull, they're stone cold dead. I mean, they're gone. Obviously, you see the highlight reels on the YouTube channel and where the heads are gone, go flying. Yeah, absolutely, that happens. But I've more often than not smacked them, and most of the time the head is still attached by a thread of skin or something like that, but it'll sever that spine. It'll lay that skull wide open, and they're dead, stone cold dead. However, I have clipped them just enough where it caught the jugular. And the bird's flopping just going all over the place, and blood's going everywhere. I hate to be graphic, but blood's going everywhere. And all I did was cut his jugular and his windpipe. It just went right under his chin and just cut his throat.
And he's dead.
Done. Yeah, smoke. He's done. Toast.
So it seems to me, and I've seen a lot of turkeys not recovered, and it's something in our sport that hardly ever gets talked about. But
yep.
I mean, I have friends of mine that are some of the best archers around, and they body shot them. I've seen it, and they never find them. It seems to me that neck and head shot, your margin of even if you make a bad shot, and you hit any part of that area, they're dead. Whereas
Most
if
of the
you
time.
go for body shots and you miss the softball size target, the margin of
And,
the margin
uh,
of error is huge. Meaning, um, leg shot, breast shot, you know, and
I'll
they're not dead.
and I'll even take a step back. I'll disagree with that. I understand you're saying the softballs. It's in my opinion, it's not a softball.
It's a baseball.
You're no, you're looking at more like a racquetball because the thing, and this is okay. I don't even know how to say it. There's a lot of bad information out there, and I don't think the bad information is malicious intent, has malicious intent, or is based off of ignorance. It's just I don't know. Here's the deal, and I show you this on the turkey module. And I heard you say it. You go for the upper thigh shot. There's two schools of thought when you're taking a body shot. All right, let's just forget headshots for a minute. Let's just go to a body shot. If you're using a regular fixed blade broadhead, or you're using an expandable head, I'm going to suggest to you, if you can, always use the largest mechanical head that you can efficiently shoot. Just turkeys are just shoot. I really don't see any reason not to shoot a mechanical. Okay. I mean, granted, you can use a fixed blade, and we'll talk about both of those. But if you can use a mechanical, most mechanicals are going to give you a much, much larger cutting diameter going through that bird. And with turkeys, you need trauma in that chest, in the chest cavity. But the problem is, some of the places that people advocate shooting turkeys end up sending an arrow in places where they don't have heart and lung arteries and major cardiovascular areas that are going to cause damage. For instance, two schools of thought. One, the wing butt, shoot him in the shoulder, shoot him in that wing butt, and anchor him there. Or another school of thought is aim for the upper thighs, the hip joint, the hip socket, or the upper drumsticks, because, okay, and the argument for both of those theories is this: shoot him in the wing butt and you can anchor him. Well, yeah, you can if the arrow goes into the vitals, and I'll touch on that here in a minute. But some people have seen, depending on the broadhead you're using, you catch that wing butt, that joint, that bone, that's a big honking joint. It's a bunch of bone. And you can actually, yes, you can break it and the arrow can go through it. But if you deflect in any way that doesn't either break the spine or deflect that arrow into the chest cavity, you can bust that wing big time, and you can bowl him over, and he's going to flop, 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 and then all of a sudden he jumps up and takes off running. Well, now you're chasing him. Well, depending on the terrain and depending on the habitat, you may or may not either be able to run him down, or if he takes off and he gets into a spot where you can't follow him, if there's no blood trail, which in a wing butt shot there most likely is not going to be, and you can't follow feathers through tall grass or whatever, for us with the Rio Grandes out here, you get into CRP or some of these weedy river bottoms, they're gone. They're just gone. They'll take off running, they'll smoke you, and then they'll go bury themselves under a log jam or something like that to hide. It's natural instinct, and you'll never find them. So people then said, okay, well, forget the wing butt. If you catch that hip socket or the pelvis or the upper thigh, if you break their legs, if you break their pelvis, in order for a turkey to fly, it first jumps, either runs, it starts to run and then flaps and then flies, or it leaps into the air with its legs and gets its wings under it and then it flies. So if you bust that pelvis or the upper thigh bone, that joint, Well, they don't have any legs under them. They can't go anywhere. They can't run and they can't jump to fly. And so they might be flopping all over the place, but you can run them down. Okay. And now the other thing that's part of the reason why I said before, turn your poundage down, because in many, many instances, if you are going to shoot turkeys with a fixed blade, or if you're going to shoot turkeys with a body shot, there are many, many advantages to leaving that arrow inside the bird. Because A, it's going to be harder for them to flap their wings. B, it's going to be harder for them to run. Even if they run and they start going through grass and they, go to hide, maybe you can see your fletchings, your arrow sticking up or whatever. Having an arrow retain inside the body cavity of the bird pays huge dividends in slowing that animal down to where you can get on them. Okay, but here's the thing, and I showed this in that video. If you look at where the hip joint is in the pelvis, that's the gut pocket. That's intestines. And so if you miss bone, or heaven forbid you just bust one leg, and he can get up and he can hop, and they'll get up and hop and they'll go long distances very, very quickly with one leg, or they'll get up off the ground with one leg and they'll start to fly. Well, okay, you just put an arrow through the intestines and the stomach, kidneys, maybe liver, but that bird is going to fly. That bird is, unless you can run him down right then and there, you could lose that bird. And so, Jay, like you, hunting myself, I've learned my lessons the hard way, and then guiding and taking other hunters. I'll tell you right now, I no longer advocate taking a wing butt shot. I no longer advocate taking that upper thigh shot. What I did in that video is I took that bird apart and I opened him up and opened up the chest cavity and showed you what the internal anatomy looks like on a turkey. Because what a lot of people don't realize is their internal chest cavity, their internal cavity is similar but critically different from deer and elk, in the fact that people think if I get an arrow in that, what they call the quote-unquote chest cavity, well, he's done. Well, the problem is most of that internal cavity is not chest cavity, it is stomach intestines cavity. And the chest cavity, a turkey's lungs do not fill the entire area. They only fill the back and in between the ribs. And I show in the video, if you've never, there's a lot of people that gut turkeys that never remove the lungs. The only way that you can remove the lungs out of a turkey is to literally take your fingers, insert your fingers in between the ribs, and then push your fingers down through towards the spine in between the ribs and pop those lungs out. So when we're talking about the cardiovascular system of a turkey and the chest cavity, you're really talking about the size of a racquetball rather than the larger area, what you said, of the softball. Yes, if you put an area through the gut cavity, that turkey's going to be hurting. You're going to kill that turkey, but he can run a long ways, he can hide on you, and it's going to be a brutal tracking job.
What I hear you saying, and I've heard it from a lot of other people too, and talking about the upper leg shot so they can't, run away and they can't fly away. If I said, okay, when a deer comes into your stand, I want you to shoot him in the back hip socket.
Yeah.
So that he can't get away, so that he drags himself off or he lays there because you've broken his hips. To me, I value a turkey as much as I do any other animal. So for me, I've just kind of come to the point, and after this weekend of being disgusted, it's like I need to start headshot, head neck shot turkeys and forget the body because I
Yeah,
mean
no.
I've probably seen a for people listening out there, I see 30, 40 birds a year for the last however many years with all my Gould's turkey hunts and all the Merriams and all the different stuff, and I see a lot of them get away with a bow, and I just think I'm kind of transitioning where I think the only reasonable shot is head neck because if you hit in that area, you're going to kill them. Whereas the other ones, like you said, break their legs, they fly off. But once they take flight, your chances of finding them are, I would say, 2 in 10.
Well, it depends on the habitat you're in. You're coming from a standpoint of Goulds and maybe even Merriam's, which are generally,
Thick
you know,
pines and
okay, pines. You might have some brush country in there as well, but what you nailed is perfect is the ridges. They can fly up and over a ridge, and goodness gracious, now what? They can just set their wings and sail, shoot a half a mile, depending or more, depending on the terrain, and you don't know which way they go.
yeah, once
For
they go over the ridge, they could bank hard left,
oh
and you're
yeah,
never even looking in the right spot. If you're hunting
but
Midwest areas where maybe it's
there you
flatter
go.
and you've got visual on them, then that's one thing. But it just seems, but also it seems like an ethical kill scenario. Head neck. I mean,
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, and again, I understand it, and that's where, okay, dude, I've been in the same, I was in the same place you were. Okay, there was years that literally I would go to Turkey, and I say turkey camp because we would literally go and travel as me and a couple friends. We would go to turkey camp, and I would make sure I had a quiver, 8 arrows ready to go, because dang it, I was going to get my money's worth. I was going to shoot at some turkeys. And so I might shoot 6 shots and I just completely miss or whatever and finally be able to connect. And, I'm like you. Wounded animals, seriously, seriously bother me. And so most of the time I was missing, just flat out, just comedy of errors missing. I've got stories. But anyway, so I went from missing to just like you did. I take a couple of body shots and the bird would take off or whatever, and I lose them. I'm like, all right, that ain't happening ever again. And so I went over and I transitioned over to the Magnus Bullheads. Well, I've literally gone back now to the Rage hypodermics. I go back to my mechanicals because now I understand where to hit them, and I don't necessarily have to. I don't have to use an entirely different arrow setup for my turkeys. I can use my deer and elk setup for my turkeys because now I know where to hit them. Now it takes some discipline. You and I joked earlier about this, and I'm not ragging on you about this, but it does take some discipline of knowing when not to shoot, because if those turkeys are shucking and jiving and moving and just engaging those decoys and all of this, that, okay, even if you execute the most perfect shot imaginable, within a fraction of a second, that bird can sidestep, and now your arrow impacts out of the kill zone. So you've got to. This is where, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but this is where study of behavior, study of how turkeys engage decoys, just behavior, how they engage one another, how they engage the decoy setup that you've put out, and then watching their behavior and how they settle into those decoys, having the discipline to let things unfold, initially let the birds work those decoys, and then you can watch them settle in, calm down, and now they're a much more static target. If you know where to properly aim at a bird, dude, you'll dump them every single time. I swear it.
yeah,
So don't be discouraged about this year. I mean, seriously, as a friend, don't be discouraged, because I think you could go right back out in the field and just start smacking them and literally anchoring them right then and there, putting them on the ground and watching them, their head flop over in 15, 20 seconds. Boom, done.
I think the hard part for me was, I sent you like a 5 second clip, and you're like, why didn't you
Mm-hmm.
let them settle down? I'm like, dude, they were there for like an hour, and I finally decided to shoot. But I can honestly tell you, and Travis, was laughing. We were having a good time until I realized what an idiot I am. But where my arrow hit is nowhere close to where I should have been aiming.
Well,
So
okay,
what I think I did, I think I made a horrible shot. What I think I did is
okay,
I draw back, whether I
okay.
didn't anchor properly or I just, was kind of shooting at a downhill angle. I know to never hit them where I shot them. Like I think I almost panicked. Like I don't understand,
Oh.
you
Well,
know.
that's dude. You nail. I mean, that is the thing that people. It is
I mean,
not
I
like shooting a
basically
deer and
went for
elk.
center mass and just pulled the trigger when I know that those top feathers on the top of their back, if you can hit about an inch or an inch and a half below that, which is about 6 inches when they're fully fanned out, 6 inches below that, you will knock them down and kill. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
destroy
yeah,
them. And
yeah,
I hit 6 inches below that, or
yeah. You were
eight
excited,
inches. Yeah, I think I just got freaking worked
and
up and.
there's that's the other thing too is I did not see what transpired up to that point, but what I saw, and believe me, by all means, correct me and tell me I'm completely wrong. But what I saw in that short clip you gave me was a bird that was coming in to that decoy spread, and he was initiating activity in those decoys. He had not been in those decoys for a long time.
No,
He had
what
not
happened
worked
is
up.
he had been in there, in and out of them for a good 30 minutes, like standing on the decoy. Like
Okay.
I never even drew my bow. Like I was just, we were videoing and enjoying the show. It was one of those that was such a good
Yeah.
morning with, 7, 8 toms total in the field. Four of them are, at 8.5 yards right at our decoys. They're standing on the submissive hen, literally taking turns, mounting the submissive hen. They're, slapping the full strut. They're over there beating the DSD Jake, the whipping boy. They've got that
Okay.
stake completely leaned over. And then he re-engages as the other birds kind of worked
Okay.
off. And I
Okay.
thought, okay, here's my time. But you're right. He was coming back into the spread. I
Yes.
should have let him get on the submissive, and you know how they kind of
Yes.
crouch down and they
Yes.
kind of calm down after their initial approach. Like when
Yes.
they first come up, they're kind of all jazzed up, but once they kind of settle in, like you
Yep.
said, I totally agree. I'm not disagreeing with what you said. But before that, he had been there for 30, 40 minutes just doing everything known to man, which I had tons of shots. It was more of a function of I don't really want to shoot because this is incredible video. This is, opportunity to have, these types of birds this close doing their thing. They obviously don't know we're here. And it's not often that turkeys will come and beat decoys for 40 minutes or so, and you get to see that. So and then I finally thought, yeah, the other birds had kind of worked off. I thought, yeah, I'll go ahead and shoot this one. There was actually one with a double beard, and I didn't shoot at him. And I just, when you make a shot and you just think I wasn't like, I had to have just went up and just
Yeah.
like you know, I didn't take it serious enough, or not serious enough, but I needed to go through my routine and I needed to really hone in. I think I just pulled back, was bringing my bow up kind of to where I want, and I just slapped the trigger.
Well, and that happens. And I did that. I'll freely admit it. With my whitetail this year. I mean, this buck's come out. He walks up broadside. I pull back. I know darn well where I need to hit, and I watched my pin settle about 6 inches back from where it needed to be, and I boom send it. I'm like, what? What did I? What? What did I just do? Yeah, I mean, obviously he ran around the corner, blah blah blah. I got him, but oh yeah, I mean turkeys. But if you've never bow hunted turkeys, or I guess really even more importantly, for those people that have bow hunted turkeys and that are discouraged by it, that's the thing, is there's something about watching those birds come in and you're shooting them with a bow. You just get jazzed, because I think in part, if you started bow hunting turkeys after you've already shotgun turkeys, like you said, I'm the same way. I cut my teeth with a 12 gauge shotgun on turkeys. There is something viscerally satisfying about shooting a turkey in the face. And so it's this impact and boom, I don't know. It's just awesome. Well, if you go with a body shot with a turkey and you've grown up with that impact with a shotgun, you get to see that impact and you get to see everything unfold. And I think a lot of people get so jazzed up about a turkey in their setup, and the bird's moving and they pull back and they're like, oh, that sucker's right there and I'm going to shoot. Not only are they shooting too quick, but I think they're shooting and looking and they're waiting to see that traumatic, just boom, anchor the turkey right on the ground. Well, I think that's, again, like you said, that your bird did not come. If you're going to shoot a bird with a bow, my recommendation, and a lot of people these days are using a strutter or a jake and hens, and a lot of people are starting to use the high definition decoys. You use Dave Smith. I've used the AVNX. They're phenomenal. And if anybody's listening to this and has not is a serious turkey hunter and has not invested in the ultra realistic high definition decoys, especially either your strutter, I don't even see your strutter, your jake and a couple of hens, because I still use the Primos B Mobile, and I've got reasons for that. But if you're not using your high-end decoys, the high-definition decoys, you're missing it, because you get so many more birds to finish and come into your decoy spread. And then more importantly, especially if you're taking kids, or especially if you're taking first-timers, those birds will come in and I've had them literally spend hours in front of the decoys. Kurt and I know this video is on our YouTube channel. Kurt and I literally had a group of jakes in in our decoys for, I think, if I remember correctly, almost 16 hours. I mean, they would not leave. So,
like, you started them in the morning and you sat there with them all day?
Yes. And finally they walked away for a brief moment. We picked up, we moved our set so if we could finally get to where we thought the birds were going to come back to roost that night. We reset up, started calling. The same jakes came back, and they just camped out all day until finally towards the evening the mature birds came in, ran them off. But they literally were in there all day. Either last year or the year before, I think it was the year before, 2 years ago now. Literally one of my clients with the kids, we literally had no choice. He had the kid, was first time hunter, had a 20 gauge, wanted the shot no more than 20 yards. We had the decoy set I always advocate setting your jake and your strutter where you want to take the shot. So use them as yardage markers. So I set those babies at 20 yards. That bird, we finally killed a bird. He got his first bird. But we literally had to let that bird work those decoys for over an solid hour, literally nonstop. I don't know, it was an hour, 15 minutes. That bird would not sit still. And it's a mature bird. It was at least a 2-year-old, if not a 3-year-old bird. That bird would not sit still long enough for the entire hour. The kid is on the shooting sticks with the gun on his shoulder, and we're just, okay, what? Okay, wait, no, wait, watch, no, okay, no, hold up, wait, just wait, okay, yeah, no, got it. That bird just would not stop moving. But if you let the bird finally get it out of their system, just get their initial shucking and jiving out of their system, most of the time they will settle down and either just full strut, or they'll go and posture over the decoy. They'll stand bolt upright and they'll push against the decoy with their chest. And a lot of times they'll just stand there leaned up against him. Those are the times when the bird has finally started to settle in that you want to take your shot. Not when they initially come in and are shucking and jiving. Most of the time when my clients have either missed or wounded a bird, it's because they have shot too soon. And 90% of the time now, guys or gals, kids, doesn't matter. The birds come in, boom, they puff up. They'll, spit and drum right next to the decoys, come in, pound the decoys. They're ready to draw their bow or they're ready to pull the trigger. I'm like, no, wait. Just enjoy the show. Watch them. You can tell when the bird all of a sudden he's settled in a little bit. Now's the time to take your shot, because now the bird is not moving as much. Now you've kind of got your initial adrenaline out of the way, your initial excitement. You've watched the show. You're a little bit more composed, and most of the time you can take a better shot. And we haven't even talked about where I suggest to take a shot, but
let's talk about it.
Two things. One, I have now come to the conclusion, even for myself, I just won't take it unless I'm shooting a Magnus Bullhead. I will not take a front-on shot. I just won't. Because if you look, go ahead. You were going to say something.
No.
All right. If that bird is in full strut in front of you, or it doesn't matter, if he's standing there facing you, people need to realize that their vitals are easily 4, if not 6 inches behind the feathers that you see. Meaning, if that bird is in full strut facing you, yes, and I'm talking perfect front on facing you. Yes, you're aiming, and the general rule of thumb is that triangle. You want to aim between the top of the beard and the bottom of the wattles. And dead center, left and right, straight line, but dead center between the top of the beard and the bottom of the wattles. That's left and right, that is perfect. But your arrow is not going to engage the vitals until it's already passed 4 to 6 inches into the body of that bird. The reason why that's important to understand is if that bird is turned even in the slightest amount and you don't notice it, you aim for that line, the dead center between the beard and the wattles, your arrow's going at an angle, and you literally can put an arrow right through the long axis of that left or right breast muscle, and that bird's gone. You didn't get an arrow in the chest cavity. That bird must be dead on facing you. And in the heat of the moment, in my experience, even with myself, most people will not pick up on the subtleties of whether or not that bird is twisted a little bit or not. If I'm going to body shot a bird, now, Magnus Bullhead, give me a front-on shot every day. I will smack him in the wattles. Oh, it's a perfect shot. But if I'm using regular broadheads or expandables and I'm going to take a body shot, I will set my decoys in a manner and I will wait for that bird behaviorally to turn and turn broadside. And if you watch that video and if you look at the turkey anatomy and you pay attention, yes, hit him high, watch him die, hit him low, watch him go. The reason why you hit him high, watch him die is because, yes, you'll hit bone, you'll hit the spine, they'll anchor right there. But those lungs are interlaced in the ribs of the turkey, and the ribs and the lungs occupy only the top half. So if that bird is standing there broadside, the lungs don't fill the chest cavity like the lungs do fill a chest cavity of a deer or an elk. The lungs are only on the top half of that chest cavity. Now, yes, his heart is in there, and he's got other viscera and everything else in there, but the lungs are only on the top half. And so you want to put your arrow through that top half of the chest cavity. If you watch, and a lot of turkey hunters will understand the wing butt, the shoulder, where the wing attaches to the body, is not the point of the wing that you see, whether he's strutting, whether his wings are up or whatever. If you watch those wings, there is a point to the wings that points forward. That's essentially, lack of a better term, his elbow joint. I'm talking about the wing butt, where the wing disappears into the body. The feathers of the wing disappear into the body from that point. And then if you pay attention to the bronze band, what people oftentimes call the bronze band, there's some people that say if you want to hit them in the pelvis or the drumstick or whatever, shoot them in the bronze band. Okay, well, again, my argument, that bronze band is going to put that arrow in the gut pocket, the intestines. But if you draw a line from the top edge of the bronze feathers to the place where the wing disappears into the body, that is your chest cavity, and that's the upper half of that chest cavity. If you shoot halfway between the top edge of the bronze feathers and where the wing disappears into the body, that arrow is going to go through ribs, it's going to go through lung, it's going to go through heart, it's going to go through arteries, and most of the time, it's going to break that spine. That bird is going to hit drop like a ton of bricks. He's going to flop for about 5 to 10 seconds, and he's going to be stone cold dead. Done. So, again, I draw a line between where the wing disappears into the body and where the top edge, the highest point, the top edge of that bronze feathers on his wings, draw a line between there and shoot halfway between it, and you'll anchor that bird almost every single time. And I will set my decoys to make that bird stand broadside, or I will not shoot him until he is broadside. And it doesn't matter if he's in strut or if he's kind of partially strut or his wings are up. If he's in strut, the way his wings are, the way his feathers are, it works. And if he's standing upright, the way he tucks his wings, and the way that line works, it works almost every single time. And you'll anchor them. Because I saw it, Jay, at a good example, and it's a great, your video that you posted. You had basically a submissive hen, the hen, lay down hen, the hen that was in the breeding position. Okay, anybody that buys those hens that are laying on the ground, that hen behaviorally is showing through body language to the gobbler that she wants to breed. That's why the gobblers jump on her back and want to breed her. You had a great setup with that hen and the gobbler. The only criticism that I would give you on your setup is your hen was quartering towards you. If you watch a gobbler climb up onto the back of a hen, he will only do it one way.
From the back.
Even if he comes up on the side, he will orient himself parallel, same
Correct.
Direction as that hen.
Yeah, I'm watching the video on my iPad while you're talking, and it's exactly right that submissive hen was quartering to me, and it should have been
Bingo.
Perpendicular to me, which would have made him perfectly broadside every time.
Yeah, exactly. If you're going to use a lay down hen,
if you guys listen, if you go on my Instagram and you go to part 4 of Texas Turkey Hunt,
bingo,
you'll see where the bird is up on the submissive hen and he's basically at a quartering angle. If I would have set that perpendicular to the blind, that bird would now be on her completely broadside, and I never
bingo.
even thought of that.
Bingo. Yes, exactly. And most people don't. And again, I'm not being critical of it. This is just, again,
No, it's learning.
I love behavior, and I'm a geek on behavior. That is where you use that behavior to your advantage. He will line himself up on her back, and you put that decoy brought. Dude, I'm looking at a video that I did right now on my computer, and even back then, this is a couple years old now, even I made that mistake. It's something that, folks listening, if you're going to use a lay down hen and you want to take the shot when the bird is on top of that hen, make sure that hen is broadside to you, right where you want to take this 10. If you're using a bow and you're shooting out of a blind, put it 10 yards. Seriously, the birds they don't care about blinds 99% of the time. So put that wherever you want to take the shot, whatever yardage. And if it's with a shotgun, say your best pattern is at 25 yards. Okay, put those decoys out as yardage markers to where you optimize your effectiveness with whatever method of take you're using. But put that lay down hen broadside to you. When that bird climbs up on top of her, she will be broadside. The second part about that, though, is yes, we're talking about taking body shots with a bow, and now the turkey is broadside. For anybody that's using head chopper broadheads, or anybody that's using a shotgun, if you watch the behavior of that turkey when he's on her back, most of the time, at some point, his head is going to be sticking up like a sore thumb. It's like low-hanging fruit. Just pick it. You know what I mean? So it's by setting the decoy, the lay-down hen that way, not only is he going to be broadside, but behaviorally, because of what that bird has to do in order to try to breed her, he's got to stick his head up. So it doesn't matter if you're using a shotgun, doesn't matter if you're using Magnus Bullheads or any other head chopper style broadhead, doesn't matter if you're shooting him with a fixed blade or expandable, that bird is in prime position to shoot him.
Good stuff.
But that's it. But that's if the bird is on the lay down hen.
I think we could talk about decoys position for another 2 hours, talking about the Jake and the strutter. But real fast, I typically, if I think a bird is coming from out in front of me, I put the tail fan of the strutter facing the bird and the bird's head looking at me. And one of the reasons I do that is because I feel like gobblers will always approach other gobblers from behind, and then they will circle around and come face to face. Okay, so I feel like with the tail fan facing where I think the target is going to come from, the bird that I'm after is going to come from, it's going to make that bird come in from dead behind it and then circle around and then come face to face, where yes, when he's face to face with your strutter, you don't really have necessarily a good shot, but as he comes around your decoy, you have great shots, and as he circles around, you know, that's my thinking on that. I'm curious what your thoughts are.
My thoughts on that are, you're exactly right, but why not take it a step further? Behaviorally, you're dead on. I talk about that all the time. Point the tail fan of your strutter towards the direction you think the birds are going to come from. If you have no clue which way they're going to come from, point your strutter right straight. You can either point, depending on where you want to put the bird, you can either point the strutter straight at you or straight away from you. But and the reason why I say that is because if I know the direction the bird is going to come from, in many cases, I will put the bird actually at a 45-degree angle, understanding that turkey is going to, I want that bird to see the red, white, and blue head. I want him to see the body, big black ball of a body, and I want him to be able to see partial tail fan. Now he's got all three visual images of there's a turkey over there. But most of the time, I will put my decoy, my full strut decoy, to where he is a 45-degree angle facing away from my blind, because I know exactly what you said. 90% plus 95% of the time, again, we've got turkeys that are lovers and fighters, but behaviorally, it is to their advantage to come in and whip up. If they think that strutter decoy is an actual bird, it's to their advantage to sneak in behind his fan to where they can't see him and attack him without any of that decoy's weapons, his beak or his spurs, anywhere near him. So they're going to sucker in. I agree with you. They're going to sucker in back behind that bird. But if you put it at a 45, now you just predispose that that bird is going to swing closer to your blind. And more importantly, as he swings, and a lot of times they'll do it if you have a bird that is timid and he just wants to come in and strut and he's going to bluff and he's going to show off, they'll come in behind that decoy's tail fan, but they'll strut, but they'll approach that decoy's tail fan. If you put it at a 45 angle pointing away from your blind, you sucker that bird not only in closer to your blind, but as he comes strutting in, he turns perfectly broadside. So if you're bow hunting, you get a perfect broadside, literally perfect broadside shot at that bird. If you're shotgun hunting, it doesn't matter. You can shoot him anywhere you want. But I take it one step further, and I will position that decoy to purposefully sucker that tom right where I want to take that shot and right where I need him to be perfectly for whatever method of take either I'm using or my clients are using, whether if it's a bow for broadhead or traditional fixed blade broadheads, mechanicals, Magnus Bullhead, shotgun, doesn't matter. I can use that behavior and put those birds exactly where I want them almost every single time. And then, again, just let them settle in, let them work the decoys, smoke them.
I love it. We can talk about the whipping boy in another podcast.
We're going to give away all my secrets.
Oh, so now all you got to do is just go kill a bird, and you win the dinner. I think we said Taco Bell, by the way.
See, that's the thing, man. You sent me that text. You're like, oh, I want double meat on my burger. I'm like, burger? I didn't know they put filet mignon on buns. You keep degrading. I should just go out and shoot a Jake just for spite.
Yeah, just shoot the smallest, youngest juvenile Jake you can find, and just be like, that's all it took to win, to beat old Scott out of I shot a bearded hen to beat old Scott out of his own bet.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. I do. I laugh because you're my friend, but I sympathize because, man, I have been there myself. I've been there with my friends. I've been there with clients. Heck, last year, and people could see this on the YouTube channel, Steve Fernandez, friend of mine, came out, and here's a perfect example of he hit his bird just a touch. He hit perfect body pocket, but he hit basically the intestine pocket, and that bird stumbled off, and a lot of times they will do. This is, I guess, let me take a second here. I know we're running along, but if you do hit a bird in the body, watch that bird carefully. If that bird is struggling, physically struggling to move, get out of that blind or get up and run that thing down right now. However, if that bird gets up and just starts to limp and hobble, and he's moving okay, but you could tell he's in trouble, sometimes I will literally, if there is a lot of brush pile around or a lot of blowdowns around or dead wood or whatever, sometimes I'll just sit and give it a minute and watch him, because what Steve's bird did last year, he hit that bird and the bird was in trouble. You could tell the bird was like, oh no, and he just kind of stumbled off. Well, that bird went straight to the nearest blowdown, big treetop that he could find, and he burrowed himself in there to hide. Perfect. Watch him, let him get in there and hide, then go in, make a follow-up shot, kill your bird. But if they're moving, if they're in trouble and they're struggling, just get out there and run them down right now. Just right now. And if they fly, for those people in the Midwest or East, if you get leaves on the trees, man, they get up and fly, you could be in trouble. If it's early enough where there's no leaves on the trees, sometimes the best bet is to watch them. Just watch them hard to figure out where they go and take a look and see if you can see them. Sometimes they'll actually land in the trees, or they'll just fly into the trees, and then they'll just bomb down and just kind of crash and burn. Most of the time, if they do that, they will go and hide somewhere near where they hit the ground. They're not going to go very far. But when I say they go and hide, brother, they hide. And sometimes they can hide very, very well. I lost a bird one year that literally burrowed himself under a round bale out in the middle of a wide open field. I shot this bird out in the middle of a wide open field, body shot at him, shot him. He ran off. I thought I was tracking him. I had never found him. Literally 2 weeks later, the landowner said, "Hey, I found your bird." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, it was right under," he told me what bale it was under. That bird had button hooked around and burrowed himself under the round bale out in the middle of the field. They will burrow themselves down into some of the nastiest little, darkest little holes. So if you see where the bird crashes, or you see where a bird disappears, just let them settle for a minute. Keep an eye on that spot. Give them some time, and then slowly work your way in using binoculars and watch. Because I've literally followed up and killed a bird that I wounded, and this was wounded with a shotgun. I thought I smoked him with a shotgun. He hit the ground like a ton of bricks, flopped around all over the place, all of a sudden jumped up and took off running. He burrowed himself under a log, and literally I watched where he went, let him bed it down, let him hide, and then snuck my way over to it. And I just took my sweet time, and he peeked his head up over the log to see where I was, and that's where I saw him, and I smacked him in the head again with a shotgun. But so yeah, if you can run them down. But if they look like they are highly mobile, man, sometimes the best thing to do is just let them feel like they are relaxed. Let them go where they're going to go. Let them hide, and then sneak in on them and search them out and be ready, because they can be burrowed in the tiniest little hole, and you never know.
I think that's a great tip. Great tip. Chris, have you gotten a archery elk hunter for Arizona yet? I know the draw just came out. I know you've been talking to a few guys. Did you book?
Not yet.
You still?
No,
still
not yet. Yeah, no. One of the guys that I was talking to, he decided on another group, which is fine. I mean, it was a better fit for him. So, no. If anybody drew a Arizona tag, especially you guys that drew an Arizona Unit 9, geez, Pete, give me a call if you want help. If you want to go have a fun, you and I talked about this. There's some people that all they care about is the inches. I don't mind that, as long as that hunter realizes that if you're going to chase inches, then it's a completely different hunt than if you're just wanting to go after a quality, fun hunt. If we're out there chasing inches and you want the top 1%, or like last year, the top 0.8% of the bulls in the unit, then you need to understand that we might be sitting water holes. We might be sitting and glassing for a full 7 to 10 days and literally actively chasing a bull for the last 4 or whatever. It's a different style hunt. But if you want to come out and just have a fun hunt, but you want somebody that knows what they're doing with behavior and calling and everything else, yeah, I'd love to go with you. So give me a call.
Awesome. And tell the listeners how they can find you.
As always, just roehuntingresources.com, ROE huntingresources.com. For those that are listening about the turkeys, yes, we do have a turkey module. It's a smaller portion of the educational material on our website. It's good. It's really good information.
Good. Yeah, it's really good.
But if you're also an elk hunter, I'll just save the money and just get an annual subscription. Then you get all of them. And for those people that are subscribers that have looked at it, this is just an FYI. We are updating that site now. We've updated the look and the functionality and the feel and the usability of the elk module. And Kelly's working on the turkey module and deer module as well. So it's definitely a lot better for mobile users. But yeah, we've made some serious upgrades to the website, so definitely check it out. But for the YouTube stuff, same thing. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all of it's just rowhuntingresources.com. We've got a pile of information there.
Awesome, buddy. Well, get out there and get you a turkey, so I know you'll at least have one.
I need to get a free meal out of
it. Yeah, you try and get a free meal out of me somewhere or another.
It better be before we get to Mexico. I want actually a quality meal. See, I want it in like civilization.
We're stopping across the border and stopping at a taco stand where we don't know whether it's Chihuahua meat or burro meat.
Exactly. He'll take the skinny taco. One to go.
Yeah, exactly. One time we stopped there at a little taco stand on the side of the road. This is 20-some years ago, and we were going coos deer hunting, and Dar got a little burrito or something and had a little salsa, a little packet thing there, like in these little plastic containers with the little lids on them. And he was trying to say, is it hot in Spanish? And best we could get out of him is, nah, it's not that hot. And
yeah.
We were talking, driving down the road. I was driving, and I look over there after about 5 minutes, and he wasn't saying a whole lot. And I look over, and literally his freaking lips were purple. And I go, dude, what happened? He goes, what? And I go, your lips are purple. He goes, they've been burning ever since I got that burrito. And he goes, I don't even know what to say. And literally, they were purple, like he had blistered his lips. And so you're in for a treat.
The thing is that again, and I have some friends that very strong Hispanic heritage to where, dude, I am the worst. Like mild is stretching it. People say, oh, it's medium. I'm like, crap.
Yeah.
Because so when you especially if you're talking about whether you're talking about native Mexicans or you're talking about hardcore, spicy food.
No.
People, I mean, you ask for mild and they're like, yeah, that's mild. Yeah, it's like nuclear, dude.
Yeah.
That may be mild to you, but geez, oh Pete, if I smell it and it makes my forehead sweat, that's too hot.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're going to have a great time Gould's turkey hunting. Chris is going to come down with us and be down for the whole season, and we're going to have a great time. Looking forward to it. Guys, if you're listening, we do still have a few openings here and there for 2017. The bookings for 2018 are going well, but if you want to go to Gould's turkey hunting and go where Chris and I can both razz you at the same time, we're your guys. And we'll have a great time. Looking forward to it. And we're going to be doing a bunch of podcasts, and we're going to both be videoing and have a lot of good stuff to share. So, Chris, thanks as always. And I learned a lot on this episode, and I can't wait to figure this out. And I think you really helped, so it's going to be awesome. And as always, thanks for all your strong work with Roe Hunting Resources. With your YouTube channel and with Roe Hunting Resources, with the turkey module, the elk module, just awesome stuff for people that want to learn, and it's just good stuff, man. So take care, and I'll be seeing you here, about 3 weeks away.
Yeah, dude, it's coming fast. I appreciate that, all the kind words, and no, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be here before you know it. So, nope. Be safe, and thanks again. And by all means, if anybody has any questions, fire away. Fire at Scott or at Jay or at me or however you want to ask questions. I know, like I said at the beginning, when you're dealing with a podcast and just listening, when you're talking about anatomy and you're talking about position of birds, it can be difficult to really kind of visualize that. So if you got any questions, just fire away at either one of us, and we've got piles of video we can point you.
I think it would be cool too on our Instagram pages if we bounce back and forth a
Yeah.
couple of turkey uh, just still shots and just kind of you put where you think the spots you were talking about on. I think that would be cool. And
Yeah.
I just another idea that came to me is if you guys have questions for Chris or I about anything, send them to our email, send them to our Instagram, our Facebook messaging, and we will try and answer a pile of questions while we're down in Mexico because we'll have quite a bit of downtime during the day and such. To get all your questions answered. So send them, and we'll get them. We'll make a list of them and take them with us, and should be fun. So,
Yeah.
Chris, God bless. We'll talk to you later. Okay.
All right, brother. Well, the other thing I was just going to say real quick is, and also, and I mentioned, you get on Facebook, you'll see a lot of these memes come across where it's pictures of turkeys and red dots and, oh, shoot a bird there. Seriously, folks, there's a lot of bad information floating around there. So if you see that come up, just share that to your page and then tag Jay or I, and we can see it and ask him to say, hey, chime in. Is this a good deal or not? And we can fire away and say, no, yes, maybe so. We can give you information as well through that. So anyway, yeah. So
Awesome.
man. Thanks, man. And yeah, cool. Look forward to seeing
All
you.
right.